Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Aquaristik Real Talk, dem Podcast von Bustani Aqua Art. Mein Name ist Holger Hengstler und das ist meine Show. Ja, liebe Leute, jetzt sitze ich hier bei Green Aqua und ich habe den Tommy vor mir, das werde ich jetzt gleich mal vorstellen. Und der Sound ist halt so ein bisschen, aber jetzt probieren wir es einfach mal. Ich werde mir das dann hinterher mal anhören, wie es aussieht. Let's switch into English. I have with me Tommy. Tommy from Green Aqua. First of all, welcome to the podcast and thank you very much for finding the time on a Monday morning after a very short and quick invitation by myself. I'm very happy that we can talk. Maybe a couple of words about yourself and your role at Green Aqua.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for having me on the podcast. Thanks for switching to English, although I understood most of what you said, but I couldn't speak German. So I'm here with Green Aqua for around 8 years now. Mm-hmm. I'm basically running the company, so we have 3 owners, but I'm the one who's running the daily business of
Your
Green
operations
Aqua.
Manager.
Yes, let's put it that way. It's always difficult to find the
Head of
labels.
operations.
However you like. Yeah.
Director of operations. So there are 3 owners, you said. These 3 owners were from the very beginning, or did someone come with you? Because you changed the venue, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so the company itself has been started by the 3 owners and founders. They've been the same people. It's Balázs, Victor, and Attila. Mm-hmm. You could have seen all of them on the YouTube channel. They have been the founders, and the main basis of the company has stayed the same ever since. I've joined them a couple of years later, and ever since then we've been growing, so now we have a lot of people around us, but the basic frame is the same. And yes, we've changed venues about 4.5 years ago. Before that we had a smaller shop. In the early,
I remember a very early YouTube video with Balázs in a very different setting, and the videos was quite different from the videos which are done today. Yeah,
so it was basically a normal family house converted into a shop and a gallery. And the videos have been shot on our phones and so on. So a lot has changed.
And the social media had a huge impact on your business success, I would say.
Yes, of course.
The growth within the last couple of years might not have been possible without the YouTube videos. You have 1 million views on some of your videos.
It's over 4 million now.
Over 4 million now.
On the Dave Chow workshop.
Wow. So. Wow. And the professionalization of the videos played a huge role for the business success, I would assume.
The profit itself from YouTube is negligible. It's more about getting new people in the hobby. Obviously, that has a business side as well, but it's really important to know that on YouTube, most people we reach, we can't actually sell to. So we only ship inside Europe. And a lot of people watching us are from outside of Europe. So the YouTube itself is much more about helping people getting into the hobby and educating them about aquascaping. And of course, it has a nice effect on business as well, but it's more of a side effect.
It's also, you would consider yourself educational channel concerning the hobby. Yeah. What do you think are the biggest challenges a new hobbyist, a new aquascaping enthusiast has to face during his first, I would say, half a year?
Patience. I think that's the biggest issue.
I hear you. I only started aquascaping, I think, 2.5 years ago now. And but I have been an aquarist for 40 plus years. But the concrete hobby of aquascaping, it started. And the first couple of weeks when I set up my first IAPLC tank, it was horror for me because I wanted to do something except of water changes.
Yeah.
But there was basically nothing to do. I want to have fish. I want to have more plants. And so patience is not one of my fortes.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, one of the biggest issues for any newcomers. Actually, when I started out, I started right away with aquascaping, so I've never had aquariums before that. And by that time, I was still living with my parents, and I'm not a patient man.
No, I'm not. It's the same as me.
When I came up with the idea, my parents were like, no way, it's going to be an issue. The aquarium is going to be ugly all the time.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, but still, I think it's, for some things, people can find patience, even if they're impatient on a regular basis. So, yeah.
I saw when I came in, we came a bit early before the shop officially is open. I still saw the maintenance crew.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful aquascaping gallery here. Maybe I would say the most pristine and the most impressive aquascaping gallery in Europe, maybe, except from ADA, maybe in the world. I just had a quick look around. I will do an in-depth look later, but it looks brilliant. But how many people are taking care of these tanks on a daily basis?
Well, thank you very much. We have 2.5 people working in maintenance.
Full-time.
Full-time. But, well, that's like 2.5. 2 of them are full-time. One of them is half-time. But it's really important that a lot of people, when they watch a YouTube channel, they think that we have daily maintenance on the aquariums. But we don't. The aquariums in the showroom have the same weekly routine as any tank we have at home. So there's no magic, there's no cheating. We don't do daily water changes. Well, we do in the beginning of our new tank, but after that we have the same regular weekly maintenance that you would do at home. The only difference is that every day before we open the shop, we have a full checkup of the gallery, and we try to, just last clean of the glass, and there is a spot of algae, just scrape it off. Things we have, which are still you could do at home. We know a lot of people do it at home as well. They check their tanks every day, and they remove every small bit of algae or dust or whatever from the glass. But yeah, regular maintenance, nothing special compared to what we recommend to the people joining the hobby.
Yeah. You have been quite successful with the ILPLC in the last couple of years. Last year, not so much, I heard. Yeah. You finished, may I ask?
Last year was 100 and somewhere in the teens, 118 maybe, I don't know. But I was out of the top 100.
But this was a tank you made also.
Yes.
The Iwagumi style tank.
Yeah, exactly.
For those who don't know Tommy, he's the master of Iwagumi, and he inspired me also to my first Iwagumi setup. I will show you a picture later.
Okay, please do.
I made Utricularia Iwagumi, and it turned out quite nice. I was very happy to crack the code with the Utricularia, and when the photo was taken, of course, the tank was in the pristine condition. After a holiday of 3 weeks, when I returned, not so much.
Well, yeah, Utricularia is a great challenge. I always say that even for people with our level of experience, Utricularia is 50-50.
50-50.
You can never know when you set it up if it's going to work or not.
If it likes it in your tank and in your setup, or if it doesn't like it. It has a will of its own, I would say. The tank is still running. I had to pull out everything about every 4 months or so and replant everything, and then it takes about 3 months to regrow it to a state where I'm very happy with the tank. and this lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then everything goes to shits again.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult, especially during the summer. It's a challenging thing to do.
28, 29 degrees in the tanks. At the moment, I have a Intaco controller on all my aquascapes, so I can see the temperature rising in my room on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, most carpeting plants won't really survive in those conditions. IAPLCs, my best result was the year before, in 2020. It was, it was 68.
68?
Yeah.
I had something in mind, 53, I don't know. Okay, 68.
Yeah, and this year I've entered not an Iwagumi tank, so we'll see.
So because the Iwagumis do not really do well.
Yeah, it's the point system of IAPLC is that 50% of the point is creating the natural habitat of fish. Mm-hmm. Now, where do you see mountains underneath water? So that takes out a big chunk of IAPLC. And also it's really important that with most contests, you can't publish the aquarium online before the results came out. And in the previous years, whenever I built the IAPLC tanks, we did the regular videos as we would do with any tank in the showroom. But this year's IAPLC tank we've actually made the video about the starting build of the tank, but it has changed a lot since then. So not a lot of people would recognize that it's the same aquarium.
Okay.
So this way I can avoid probably or hopefully some point deduction because the actual tank is not been published before it should. And now we are 2 weeks away from getting the results. So I'm excited.
Also very excited because last year was the first time I was I started aquascaping, and the goal from the very beginning, I'm a very competitive person, was to make a IAPLC tank, and of course in my Größenwahn, in my I don't know the English word. I think it's Größenwahn in English as well. When you overestimate your abilities and your results, I said I will build a IAPLC tank and I will be top 100. After the first couple of weeks, really it showed me that this is an impossible task for a newcomer. And I finished 598, which I considered a fair
It's
result.
quite a good result, yeah.
A fair result for my first participation.
I always say if it's your very first contest, especially IAPLC, if you get into the top 800 or 1,000, it's quite a good result. Mm-hmm. If you get into the top 100 on the first try, then
you will be a new star in the aquascaping.
Yeah, it's a really good sign, but it's I wouldn't expect that on the very first. My first entry was 2,000 something, so it's it takes some practice, and I learned a lot. If you really get into competitions, it requires a completely different mindset than building. Yes. So I always say this whenever we build contest aquascapes. Most of these don't look nice in your living room. Mm-hmm. So whenever you want to get really serious about competition...
maybe the microphone is on your shirt. So
sorry. Now it's
better.
It's better.
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you build, especially for contests, it's really different because most of the high-ranking aquascapes in contests, they are actually quite depressing when you look at them.
But see them in real life.
There's a lot of shadows, and they're built up completely to the sides, and it looks like there's not enough room for the fish. It's a completely different style. So I always recommend for 99% of people, build a tank that you like, enter it to contests so you can see where you are, but don't expect a really high rank. And aquascaping should be about having a tank at home that you enjoy looking at.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to get serious, you can go into the competitive side of things, but then accept that that tank is not going to be as nice to look at. For example, the contest tank I've built for this year, if you just look, I'm going to show you later on in the gallery, if you just look at it from the normal standpoint, then it doesn't really look nice. If you look at it from the view where I planned it for the photo, it's a completely different view. So
this is something which I learned. I started with a 90p for my first tank, and then I realized that the new ADA 120p is the way to go. So I invested in another tank, in another 2 solar RGBs, all these kind of stuff. And it's also a financial point if you want to build a competition aquascape, and not only for your living room, but truly for the competition. There's a huge investment behind it, considering the hardscape, considering the plants. I'm lucky. I'm sponsored by Tropica for my plants, and. But still, it's a huge investment, which you some sort want to be paid off by a good result, even if you don't you cannot force it. There has been a huge change in judges.
Yes.
And I knew one of the German judge, Friedrich Bitter, is a very close friend of mine, and he when he said he's now finished with the IAPLC, I took a lot of hints from him for my first tank, but now with the 120p, I'm very happy, and my goal, I said it very often, I said top 250. Okay. So 100% better placement than last year. Let's wait and see. I was quite happy with my tank. I will show you some pictures later. Maybe you can give me some hints if I'm completely crazy or if this is bad. Because in the first year I learned so much, not even looking at the YouTube videos, but also in the maintenance and how the tank in the photos turned out. It was quite difficult. I'm not the best photographer, so we always have a good friend of ours who is a professional photographer, and he comes to our house. And for the first ILPLC contest, he came 3 times. First time, he was not up to the task. Second time, the tank was not up to the task. And the third time is the charm. But still, there was too much plants and too overgrown, and I like aquatic plants, so I grow a lot of plants in my tanks. Yeah,
it's actually this is 2 different difficulties about contests. Mm-hmm. One of them is the photography part. Even though I've been into photography way longer than aquascaping, it's been a huge challenge for me to take good pictures of the aquarium. It's completely different than any other kind of photography. You have to use lights differently, you have to use angles differently. And the other part is having the plants. It's for most people that you're just happy that the plants are finally really nice condition.
There where they should be, and then you have to cut them down for the photo.
Yeah, it's really difficult to get ahead of the state of the aquascape, and I think that's the fine line when you get really good in aquascaping, when you can plan ahead, when you, even while building it, you know exactly what the plants are going to do, which plant is, how they're going to turn out, which plant can overgrow the other one if you plant them side by side. And the same goes to trimming. You have to know that if you trim now, how is that going to look 2 weeks?
Yes. from now.
Exactly.
What is going to be? Plants have not played any role in my aquaristic hobby for 40 years, because I'm coming from a fish breeding, bear tank setup with some peat moss on the floor. I'm quite an explorer, quite a scientist concerning some very special fish from Africa, which we go on expeditions to find these fishes before COVID, 2 times a year, and the years before I got married to Sonia, I went on my own to high-risk countries just to find these fishes. And one of the fishes is also named after me.
That's cool.
Notobranchius hengstleri. And 2018, on our big expedition, we also found a new species, and it's named after Sonia. Notobranchius Soniae.
That's really cool.
So this whole plant business was very new to me. And but you learn a lot. You learn a lot of Latin, which I was only used from the fish side, and you also learn to read your tank and you read your plants differently, especially for a competition tank.
Yeah, I always say that aquascaping and aquariums are like 2 different hobbies.
Two very different ends of the same hobby, I would say.
There's not much overlay in a regular aquarium and for example, keeping cichlids or whatever and having an aquascape. You have to really separate the 2.
There was a bit of a scandal in the ILPLC contest. You might have heard that one of the winning aquariums in his first competition, I think it was Dave Chow, that he admitted that he photoshopped some of the fishes in his first competition. You haven't
no, I haven't heard about it. No.
And also that the Brazilian guys who photoshopped whole parts of the...
it was last year or the year before. That one I remember.
Year before. But nothing really happened, They are still in the books. They are not from the website. They have not been banned for life. Really nothing happened. Is it politics? Is it difficult? Is it?
I think it's mostly about infrastructure, the way the contest is built. By the time this got out, then there was some cheating. Let's call it cheating, but whatever. There was Photoshop involved. By that time, everything was printed. The book was out. The results were out, and it's a really difficult situation.
Even for the ILPC and the ADA.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm quite good in Photoshop, and I think there are really easy ways to figure out, for example, if fish were added or some elements were moved in the picture. So I think there should be a much more strict check, at least for the top 100, what used to be 127.
Why they changed that?
No, I don't know. It was actually a surprise when the results came out last year that it is just top 100. We didn't know about it, that it's going to be a shorter list. But it should be checked up front, and if it turns out later on, it's really difficult. What can you do? You can put out a statement. It won't reach most of the people who attended the contest. You could ban them for life. It may be too harsh. I think it would be...
You're banned for 5 years, do something.
I think it would be that there should be a fine line in between where you say, okay, we know about this, we condemn the situation, and it shouldn't be done, and we're going to take steps to prevent this in later contests.
Yeah.
But it's...
I don't think that every aquarium, apart from the top 100, is checked.
No, actually the judges don't see they only see the top 100. But at least those aquariums should be thoroughly checked for any Photoshop modifications. It's a difficult topic. I think it's everywhere. It's when you made when you made a choice and you have final results, then stepping back from it, I'm a really big F1 fan. I'm not sure if you watch F1 or not. There was a huge scandal last year at the final race. In the final lap, the results were basically decided, and there is not much you can do later on, even for something that big as F1. It's either way, you're gonna have some people who are gonna be angry about the decision and who are gonna think that that's not fair. So.
Okay, so come back to Tommy. The listeners don't know it. He's very fond of cars, and so just tell us about the BMW, because my wife works at BMW, so I'm using this podcast for promoting BMW.
Well, the love of cars has been with me since about I was 2 years old, 3 years old. My father's brother, he was racing, so I was around racing cars since I was a small child, and it just stuck with me, and it's a much longer love than Aquascaping, and I have old, let's call it old. It's a '97 E36 BMW T323 Coupe, and it was a full restoration. It was rotting quite badly, so we had to rebuild the whole subframe and everything. But it has an air ride system. It's much more about looks and fun than anything else. But that's it. It's just for myself. So I think most people build cars to show it off and to go to meetings and so on. I never liked that. It's only for myself. I just like to have nice things. Let's put it that way. And I like to put in the work. It shuts me off. It's the same as aquascaping for other people. It's just you spend time.
It's just the same with us. We like cars, of course. Now that I'm married to Sonia for a decade, my love for cars has even grown, and we are huge fans of BMWs and Minis, of course.
Yep.
And you saw our old Land Rover, which we bought 2 years ago. And now we are in the phase of buying another Land Rover. Because we like these cars very much, and they also have a history with BMW for a short time period.
It's smarter not to buy from that time frame. But they do. Well, it's just a hobby.
It's a hobby,
whatever keeps people interested.
Before we finish off, we already have 27 minutes, and before we finish off, what is except from patience, the advice which you would give for a young aquascaping enthusiast? Because, to be fair, due to the corona and the COVID, the hobby has gained a lot of traction. A lot of young people come back in the hobby, which I find one time very amusing and one time very unnerving. But it gave the hobby a new push. Hopefully it will continue even after the pandemic situation has cleared. But what is the advice you give a young enthusiast who wants to start with aquascaping? And I will go even further. I will do advice of my own. Don't be lazy. Especially at the start of the tank. Don't be lazy. Daily water changes is my way to do it, and I was quite successful with avoiding any algae issues, which some of the people always have.
Yeah, I would say it's really important to get knowledge before you start out. So it's not like cooking when you watch a video about a recipe and you're probably gonna nail it on the first try. With aquascaping, watch a lot of videos, read a lot. try not to go towards the easiest solution, because just like with every hobby, you're going to find different information about the same topic. And whenever you see a video with 100% no algae solution, it doesn't exist.
It's clickbait.
Yeah. So try to get as much information as you can, and read the comments below the videos to see if it's actually true what these people are stating, and read and prepare and have the setup. So I'm not saying you can only do this with a lot of money, because a lot of people misunderstand, for example, our videos. They say that we have these full-on high-tech setups, and that we would say that there is no other way. There is. You can make really nice aquascapes without CO2, with simple lighting, with simple setups. It's just really important to have the knowledge for it, to know what kind of plants you can have in those environments.
And the ability the ability to read your tank,
Yes.
to just look at it and have a gut feeling about the tank, what is going to be in 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months.
I think that's more on the experience side. So that's not something that you can actually do on the very first try, on the very first tank. It comes later on when you had 2 or 3 tanks, and after that you can see what you missed in the tanks before. But yeah, it's really about the ways of, well, my expense, I've learned it. When people say it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. So people wanting to try building Iwagumi layouts without CO2, it's never gonna work. For any proper carpeting plant, you need CO2 injection. There's no way around it. You can try, but you're gonna rebuild quite quickly.
And you maybe even be out of the hobby before it even began, because you think, this is what I always in these forums and Facebook groups, and there is some sort of toxic environment, because the people always think they know it best. They are 2 weeks in the hobby, and they giving advice to people who are 1 week in the hobby. And the 1 weeker believe the 2 weekers, and then everything goes to shits, because they don't know, but they think they know, but they don't.
Yeah, that's why it's really important to find a source of information that you can actually trust, and that you can see that, okay, people say if you follow this, then it's gonna work.
A sort of tutor, someone who takes you under the wings and gives you some solid advice.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what in the olden days, the old organizations, the local fish and organizations did, which has already been lost due to the internet.
Yeah, it's a really sad thing that when aquascaping started out in Europe, there were a lot of forums. Now I think that most of the teenagers don't even know what a forum is. It's like you had UK apps, and in the UK for aquascaping, we had a similar thing in Hungary, for example. So when Green Aqua started, beside the shop, the guy started a forum as well, where we could. It was previous to YouTube. We could teach people how to do it, and there was a really nice group of people helping each other and helping newcomers, and this sort of thing disappeared with Facebook and Instagram and so on. It's not just in our hobby; it's everywhere. It doesn't matter. You just put on a question, and someone is going to reply, and you have no idea if they know what they are talking about or not.
I'm trolling a lot of these Facebook groups, and also in my podcast I have some special friends which I refer to a lot of times. My podcast is not very politically correct whatsoever, because at the end I know it best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Nothing more to say. Tommy, thank you very much. It was nice. 35 minutes gone by like nothing. We now will take a walk through the gallery, and thank you very much for being such a nice conversation partner.
Again, thank you very much for having me. And just if you want to get into the hobby, get into it. Just learn.
Just do it, learn, and listen to the right people.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Das war er, der Podcast von Bustani Aqua Art. Vielen Dank, bis zum nächsten Mal.